Casey Means is the new Surgeon General nominee, who this audience knows because she's been on the program many times. He pulled Dr. Janet Neshawat, who was the sister-in-law of Mike Walls, and my information is that's why she was chosen. I was told that by somebody who is in a position to know. And Trump liked her because he saw her on Fox News. She's beautiful and she goes on Fox, and, obviously that gives you a leg up with the president. But she didn't seem like the right person for the job. First of all, she went to a Caribbean medical school. And I'm sorry, but we all know what that means. Okay, she couldn't get into one stateside. You don't go to the Caribbean for medical school if you can get into any med school in the continental 50 United States. That's just how it is. I used to be married to a doctor. Trust me, I know. She ran City MD, which is like, that like urgent care clinic chain, that chain. It's like chain medicine, okay? So that's not ideal, but fine. Well, let's not get obsessed with credentials. That's what the left does. Her real problem was she was pro the masking of children and pushing vaccines for kids under 5 long past when people like Dr. Marty McCary of Johns Hopkins were writing full op-eds in the Wall Street Journal opposing these things. Doctors like Vinay Prasad, who just got tapped to join the administration, were jumping up and down about the myocarditis that we were seeing in young men. And she was still advocating that it be pushed. So that's why this woman should not have been the Surgeon General pick, and why I personally have nothing against her, but I'm glad she's gone. She's going to work for Bobby Kennedy in some way, HHS, whatever. Okay, so now he taps Casey Means, which I was like, that's amazing. I'm thrilled. I love Casey Means. She's at the heart of MAHA. She's like one of the creators of MAHA. She's one of these functional medicine gals, kind of like the Dr. Mark Hyman mold. He was on recently, if the audience remembers him, who really thinks we've been too focused on these Band-Aids we put as temporary fixes on chronic illnesses, as opposed to, yes, curing them, but stopping them, as opposed to stopping them in the first place. There's this whole group of functional medicine doctors that's much more interested in looking at how chronic disease is everywhere and trying to change that about our society so we don't have to focus on cures and treatments, but just wellness efforts. Like, does this patient have some sort of Lyme disease that's gone untreated? Is this person living in a mold-infested home? Does this person have some sort of autoimmune condition that we need to take a look at? Are they swimming in a toxic stew that we could lower by removing some of the preservative-laden food or ultra-processed food or seed oils that are ubiquitous in their environment? How can we remind people not to microwave plastic and then eat out of it? Things like that. But there are a lot of them that can increase your wellness load. And people like Dr. Casey Means are very focused on that, looking at how we grow the soil that we grow our agriculture in, and making sure that these chemicals aren't all over our fruits and vegetables that we give to our kids that we think is, quote, healthy, right? That we're not eating fish that's laden with mercury. I could keep going. Like drinking water contaminated with fluoride and chlorine. That's Casey Means' reason to live right now. I was going to do French, but I can't. And so she tells this story very movingly about how she was, I think she might have been number one, or she was definitely at the top of her Stanford undergrad class, at the very top Stanford undergrad, which is not easy. Not easy to get into Stanford, never mind finish at the top. Then she goes to Stanford Medical School, which is also not easy, and finishes at the top there. Then she gets a prestigious ear, nose, and throat surgical residency at the University of Oregon. And so she goes up there and is crushing it in her residency. She is within 1 year of finishing the residency and doing very well. And she says, I cannot do this 1 minute longer. There was a woman who came in. Casey had to operate on her. She had been in for repeated operations for the same problem, if memory serves. And Casey said to herself, what are we doing? We're not helping. We're just churning and burning the same, quote, fixes on these patients and then spitting them back out into a process where they will not be educated, helped, nothing around them will change. And she found it too disheartening to continue. And she went in to her attending physician and said, I'm leaving the program. And he begged her not to. This is in her book, and she's given interviews about it. He begged her not to, and she said, I can't do this. So she left, and she started her own practice and to get more into functional medicine, and started thinking about the things that would ultimately wind up in the book. Good Energy would be at the center of the Maha movement. Her brother Callie was going through his own evolution and realizations, having worked for Coca-Cola, and came out hard as almost like a whistleblower against what companies like that are doing to us with the sugar and the food supply and the SNAP program and so on. And they've become very important and essential Americans, especially when it comes to Maha. Great. So why is she getting mercilessly attacked right now by some within the Maha movement and by Laura Loomer, who I don't know if she considers herself Maha. And I really don't dismiss Laura Loomer because people call her a conspiracy theorist. She's been right about a lot, okay? So people need to know that because her critics just dismiss her as like some conspiracy theorist. She's been right about a lot, and I've watched it myself on this program because I came to her very open-minded. Is she conspiracy theorist? We were all supposedly conspiracy theorists. So what's the story? She's really taking aim at Casey. And I have to say, on this one, I really disagree. I disagree strongly because I'm just going to tell you some of the allegations, okay? She said, hold on, give me a little piece of paper because I write this stuff down. Okay. She said that Casey means her dad wrote a pro-trans children's book back in 2020. Well, he did write a book that was about like an odd duckling or goose, and how it basically wound up being gay. And in the opening to the book, he does say that this is, it's about Felix, a unique bird. And he says, it's a story for children and adults alike, and says, it's for, I'm trying to find the exact quote, but it's about, coming of age is challenging for most children, but it can be especially tough for those grappling with their gender and sexual identities. Gender. So he mentions it. But I've looked at the book, at least what I can find of it. I have like 4 pages. And it's really about a gay goose. Okay? It's not really about the trans issue, even though they mention gender.
Who doesn't love a gay goose?
It's a gay goose. Okay, whatever. By the way, it's her father. It's not her. Like, I don't.
Right.
Okay, so like if she had written this, maybe it would lead to a follow-up question at the hearings, like, what do you think about, children grappling with their gender identities? That's really the question, isn't it? What does Casey Means think about children wrestling with their gender identities? And I can tell you something, guys, because I know Casey Means. I know her from the many times I've had her on this program, and I've talked to her off this program. She is where I am on this. She is not pro the transing of children at all. Her brother Callie right now is out there calling it demonic. They're very close. She hasn't spoken to it, as far as I know, publicly, because no one's asked her. Everybody's much more focused on like functional health. But she is not going to be in any way, shape, or form supportive of puberty blockers for minors, cross-sex hormones for minors, or surgeries for minors. And if somehow I am proven wrong, and I won't be, I will personally lobby the president to fire her. I will personally lobby the president to fire, which I'm not going to have to because I've spoken to her. I know, this is firsthand reporting, how she feels about it, okay? So that's that. That's number one. Then she points out, Loomer does, that she never completed her residency. That is true. I just gave you the context. She points out she does not even have an active medical license in Oregon. That's true because she decided to stop practicing medicine a couple of years into her private practice. And she has this company now that offers like all-day glucose monitoring and explains to people how to read their blood levels when they get their lab test back and so on. It just sort of helps more millions as opposed to like individuals. And I can speak this as a lawyer. I passed the bar in New York, in Illinois, and in Massachusetts. Okay, so I was admitted in all those states. I practiced at length in New York State, in Chicago, in Washington, D.C. for that matter. And I wound up going dormant on all of my law licenses many years into joining, journalism full time because A, it costs money, and B, it's a lot of continuing legal education. And in her case, medical education, a lot. It's demanding. There's a lot of bar fees. They're pains in the ass to maintain. And if you're really not going to be practicing, it's pointless to do it. She's still a doctor, but she just chose not to stay licensed so that she can actually practice medicine right now. She could get that license back like that, right? So it's like, and not for nothing, but all the continuing medical education, half of it is pushed by Big Pharma. More than half, probably. So it's like, what, we're upset she wouldn't go right back into the system that is corrupting our doctors that we're complaining about, that actually happens to be her life mission now to combat? It makes no sense. So there's all that. I think that's basically it. I've hit the biggest things. Laura's upset too that she's a little like out there in some of her spiritual practices. She pulled up her newsletter, Casey Means's, where she talked about how these are the things I did to try to tap into the mystical side of evolving my consciousness and being ready for partnership, like looking for a man, which she did find, and she got married. Here are a few. She said, I don't necessarily recommend these, but these were part of my journey. I set up a small meditation shrine in my house. I prayed to photos of my ancestors, asking for support on my journey. I went to weekly group meditations and spiritual lectures in order to tune in with the spirit. I worked with a spiritual medium who helped me try to connect with my spirit guides for support and guidance. My therapist who helped me get out of my first marriage wanted me to be doing all this stuff. Like, it didn't speak to me personally, but like this is actually like an established lane for people who are struggling, especially in relationships. I hiked alone and talked literally out loud to the trees, letting them know I was ready for partnership. I pursued visualization techniques that helped me see my visions for the future. I did plant medicine experiences with trusted guides and wrote extensively about my experience and insights. And she's admitted, and she said in her book, she did psychedelics, which does have a way of making people like feel more connected with Mother Earth and the universe, whatever. All that's part of her journey. She's been very open about it, but she's got a little Eastern medicine in there, but she's very Western medicine too, and sees all of its problems. And then you got the hardcore anti-vaxxers who want her to come out and condemn the fact that anyone is still taking the COVID vaccine. I have news for those people. She would be totally unconfirmable. Totally unconfirmable. He cannot choose somebody who feels that way, as controversial as most of us find the vaccine at this point. So that's my take on her. I think she is the antidote to most of the problems we all see right now in the medical field, in the medical industrial complex. She and her brother, Callie, are warriors for revolution within our healthcare system. And I am 110% behind both of them, including Casey Means for Surgeon General. Any thoughts?
Yeah, and like what a brave thing to do, to like study your whole life to get into the medical field. And we all know how hard that is to do, how much it costs, how much time. Like, you give your entire life to this, all those years of schooling and whatnot. And then find yourself at the end of this process in the medical field where you're putting Band-Aids over bullet holes, in somebody's health, problems that are chronic. Like the problems people show up at the hospital with, very rarely did they just happen like that.
Yeah.
It took 10 years. So to witness that on a daily basis and then be like, I'm going to change my whole life and be an advocate for a broader look at medicine, that's a brave thing to do.
Yeah.
To step away from the thing that you put your life into to look at health more holistically. Do I love the woo-woo stuff about talking to trees? No, but also like, welcome to the Big Ten of MAGA politics.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like this is what it is. And that's how Donald Trump became president of the United States.
And there's nothing wrong with being
Rogan
spiritual.
takes ayahuasca. I don't take ayahuasca. I like Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like,
there's nothing wrong. Like, if you're spiritual, I know a lot of people who are very spiritual, and they do things like this. The whole push is like to get more in touch with nature, literally to walk barefoot. That whole touch grass thing is actual. It's real. Like, it's called grounding. It's supposed to, according to some, counteract like the nonstop EMFs and radio frequencies that are everywhere. I don't know whether any of that's true, but I have seen support for it from doctors I trust who are more Western medicine based. In any event, just even if you don't believe it counteracts, EMF, it's of course good for you to go outside. To smell the air, to see the sunlight, to take in some vitamin D. Like, that's kind of what she said. She writes in her book about it when her mom died of pancreatic cancer. And she had spent the last, weeks and months with her, how deeply traumatic it was and how angry it made her at the healthcare system. This was a couple years after she left the residency, because the mother had all the signs that people listening to this may be experiencing right now, or the family member, where it was like, oh, your blood pressure is a little high. Why don't you go on, Crestor or some other statin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no problem. Oh, you're a little overweight. And today they'd say go on Ozempic, right? Which wasn't around when she was here. Oh, you've got pre-diabetes, but it's nothing to worry about. We can manage it with these medicines. And then, of course, it turns into full diabetes. And now you're actually really in trouble and in danger. Yeah. And ultimately, her mom, who'd been on this downward path on her health, and it's not that the doctors didn't care about her, it's that the whole system is set up to do this, to just medicalize, drug, respond with, what's the word? Just with pharmacy, just respond with pharmacy options. Ultimately, she gets pancreatic cancer in her, I think, young 70s. And Casey writes about how when they buried her, they chose to bury her not in a casket. Like, this is a thing you can do at certain cemeteries, where that's what her mom wanted, to be given, to have your body actually given back to the earth, like true ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And how it's that your remains could actually lead to the growth of something beautiful on this earth at some point. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I applaud having somebody in a position to be a spokesperson. That she's not setting, health policy. That's Bobby Kennedy. That's going to be Jay Bhattacharya. It's really the spokesperson for public health. Believing in that kind of thing and understanding medicine doesn't have to be totally limited to what comes out of a needle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about that. I had family who was prescribed, you name it. They, like you said, the whole story is just so familiar. It's like, okay, you have pre-diabetes, give them this, give them this, give them this. And then now you're dealing with all the side effects that, you have an elderly individual who's now on a battery of these medications. It's like, is this truly the best lifestyle that you're affording these people? And how did this become absolute? You just accept it that when you walk into a doctor's office, the notepad's going to be from one pharma company. Yes. They're going to have a little clipboard from another pharma company. The pen's going to be from another pharma company. It's like, did I walk in to get health treatment, or is this like a NASCAR ad where everyone's got their sticker of who's sponsoring them all over the place? This is how we take care of people. And when you bring up Bobby Kennedy, there was a YouTube video that he put up. Me and my wife saw it about a year ago, where he was talking about things like the food colorings that is in so much of our food in America, which is banned. In Europe and every Western country, every civilized country on earth has banned all these substances that are being thrown in foods and drinks that we get, that are put on like SNAP benefits, so that now you're poisoning an entire group of people. You're making kids dependent because poor people, getting them addicted to these products. And then now you're wondering, why is it that we pay more for healthcare and end up with worse outcomes? We really want to continue this of the same people calling the shots, then getting, once they're done with their job as Surgeon General, now they're going to their consultancy with a pharma company. It's like, at some point we have to stop and think that this system that we've put in place isn't working for it. It's making things worse and worse.
But we should be able to have both, right? Like, we should be able to have life-changing drugs that save people's lives. Like, think about somebody has a stroke, and they go to the hospital and they can give them a clot buster that clears out the stroke and literally saves somebody's life. But not every medical intervention needs to be a crisis intervention at that last moment, right? It's broadening the aperture of what health is in this country and the way we can take care of ourselves to avoid those things.
This is sort of the problem with politics, particularly in a modern age where everybody's got a hot take about everything. I just don't think this is this difficult, right? The take that you just had is absolutely right. When you have life-saving medication that happens to come from a pharma operation, okay, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Should they control the entire industry, health to nuts? No. But you're a human, you have rational, logical processes that go into any of that. She sounds like a pretty thoughtful lady, so she likes to go outside and wander through the woods. Well, I like to have 15 beers and go to the golf course. This is normal life
to each
stuff.
his own.
Yeah, in terms of whether she is exactly aligned, her father writing a book Well, wait till she finds out about a family of RFK. Really going to hate that. That's a hell of a lot worse than a gay goose. I'll tell you that much.
This July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset, as BRICS nations push forward with their plans. Some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.